Yes, guys, welcome back to the Take On. On my right, I can't believe I'm saying it, I've got a Chelsea fan.
They don't make it.
His name's Joey. And on my left,
Good to see you.
Danny Murphy. I've been away for a couple of weeks, cooking up something special that I'm sure you guys will see soon. But we're here on the Take On. And remember, everything we talk about, we want your take on it in the comments. So let's start off with Flex. Flex ain't here because he's bottled it because Man United got beat by Brighton.
Where
he
is
didn't want
he?
to be here. Where is he? Where is Flex?
Waiting to watch Man U get beat again.
Is that, he must be. But he sent us a little video. Let's have a watch it and see what he's got to say.
Yes, people, what's happening? I heard Anton was coming back, and that was enough for me to leave the country. Yeah, it's as simple as that. I'm here in sunny Germany on the way to watch the mighty Reds take on Bayern Munich. I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough week. Tough week for Man United, and there's no hiding away from it. But the hounds are out. The hounds are out. The media are writing their stories. The media are getting involved and saying Ten Hag this and Ten Hag under pressure, and the leaks are coming out the dressing room and players fighting and players arguing, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to come for the manager's neck, and it's not going to happen. We've got to stay strong. Are there questions to be answered? Yes. Some dodgy decisions, tactically done by De Zerbi. I know Danny's going to be happy about that. He sort of predicted that. Danny's probably sitting there with a big smile on his face. But we've got to keep calm. We've got to keep positive. We've been down this road before. And it's not crisis point, man. It's 5 games in. I think the problem we've got is there's so many situations to sort out, and you're playing teams that you probably don't want to play while you're not set. I.e. Spurs away, first game under Ange Postecoglou, at home. At the Emirates can happen. We've got an awful record there. And Brighton, as you know, on any day can turn up and mash you up, and that's what happened to us. And then after that, Bayern. So it's a bad run of fixtures for when you're not playing well. But no excuses. But this next batch of games, take out this Bayern one, because I'm pretty worried about that, to be honest, tomorrow. But take out the Bayern one. This next batch of games that Erik Ten Hag has, when you're looking at Crystal Palace back-to-back at home, one in the Carabao Cup, one in the league. You're looking at Brentford at home. You're looking at Sheffield United away, Burnley away. They're games that if you're on the wrong end of that, questions. So listen, I'm not panicking. Everyone, all the noise around us can do that, but we need some calm and need some stability. And these players need to get a reaction. I'm not going to say it starts here at Bayern, because I don't believe that, but it's got to start at Burnley. Anyway, I'll be back next week. I'll be watching, so any slander, I'll be fully aware of it. Peace.
Well, there's only one place to start, and that's with Flex. Man United and Ten Hag. They got beat by Brighton at the weekend.
Well beat.
And well beat, like you say, Murph. You predicted that it would go that way. You did have a smile on your face when he was saying it.
I did, yeah.
So what's your thoughts?
I'm a bit worried for Man U. Firstly, I think, obviously it's worth saying they've got a lot of players injured. I get that. Probably 3 of their best back 4 aren't there, which is a problem. Amrabat's not fit yet, who's been brought in to help Casemiro out. So I do understand there's some injury problems. I get it. Chelsea too, which we'll talk about. But the concerning thing for me, and I've seen all their games, is that it feels like most teams they play want it a bit more and are physically better. Yeah. And I'm talking about basics. Now, there was a tactical element, and he changed it. He went with a diamond. And as a midfielder, I know how hard that is to play the diamond. How many people used to moan about playing a diamond, right? Yeah. Anyway, it started pretty good for them. And without going into a deep analysis, Brighton worked it out. And they worked them out quickly and controlled the game from then on. And my concern is that Ten Hag doesn't seem to see the obvious things. And that is people not doing the basics well and keep playing them. So if you play any midfield 3 or 4 against good quality opposition, I'm talking about, you've got to be able to get about and track runners and put tackles in. Now, I've talked about this before. You're either generally a destructive player or creative. Now, if you can do both, you're top of the tree normally. But when you've got Eriksen and Bruno, and doesn't mean they're bad players for anyone jumps on. They've got their qualities. I know what Bruno is. He's a wonderful footballer. But defensively, if you're playing a midfield 4 in effect, a diamond, and you're carrying 2 of them against a side like Brighton, you're done. because they'll work you out and they'll outrun you and outplay you. So he doesn't seem to learn from the mistakes. So Tottenham second half, they got overrun by Tottenham's midfield, right? I did a piece on it, players letting them run past them, seeing them off the shoulder, not getting to second balls. Even the Wolves game opening day, which you can forgive opening day because sometimes you're a bit behind, overrun. I don't see at the moment, and it might... There's lots going on off the pitch, and I do take that on board, and I've got some sympathy for Ten Hag with that. I mean, nobody wants all those problems. But I don't really see what he's trying to do, as in a style and a way of playing that is going to benefit United moving forward, and that is a big, big problem. I know there's time, I know there's new players to come back, etc. But that was as bad a beating that I've seen United have at home in a long, long time.
I think you're right, but my take on this with Ten Hag is, and I've said it before, I think he's got a massive ego.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think his ego is massive. It's my way or the highway. And when people are like that, managers are like that, this is the way I like to play. I'm not going to change the way I like to play. You know, like you say.
But I'm saying I don't see a way he's liking to play.
But even like, you say, we're talking formations here, and he started with the diamond.
Yeah.
Brighton figured that out quickly and then dominated. Where was his answers?
There wasn't.
For the simple reason, I think it's because it's like, no, this is the way I've set up and this is the way I want to go.
I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of his ego won't allow him to admit defeat and go, do you know what? I need to change it.
Yeah.
That is what I see. And I see that.
Like Klopp at half-time, Wolves. He saw McAllister was up, bam, I'm off. And he went 2 up top, changed it.
But to be a top manager, you have to have the characteristics to be able to admit defeat at times and go, do you know what? I need to look at something different. The best managers you've had at Chelsea, Mourinho being one of them.
Oh, he used to change it early, didn't he?
But he had his way. If it wasn't working, he goes, no, what I'd done didn't work and I'm going to change it.
When we won the league under Conte, straight away, he came in, I think he was playing a back 4.
He was. He lost at Arsenal.
Didn't look good at all, switched to a back 3, and then we go on an unbeaten run after that, end up winning the league and whatnot. I think with Ten Hag, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because last season he did well.
They did.
But then to play devil's advocate to that, when you've got a player having a purple patch the way that Marcus Rashford did last season, it could maybe paper over a couple of cracks. And then when you say about forward thinking as well and thinking on your feet, the decision, I know it might come from above him, but the decision to let Anthony Elanga go, and I don't think Anthony Elanga's a well beat up. He's a very decent player and he looked like he was showing promise and whatever. He knows full well that the Greenwood situation is very unlikely going to end well and to be resolved and that he's going to go out. He also knows that he has problems with Jadon Sancho. This hasn't reared its head this season. This is problems that's gone on since last season. He was sent to Holland last season to sort of work on himself and whatnot, and obviously there was stuff going on in the background and we respect that. But I do think then to let Anthony Elanga go, little bit of a lack of forward thinking. We see the way that Arsenal have brought both Raya in to play alongside sort of Ramsdale, and they might rotate there. Maybe offering David De Gea a new contract, but also bringing in the keeper wouldn't have been the worst decision ever. So, and the reason I do sort of put the blame on Ten Hag a little bit with that is with Chelsea, for example, right? There's every indication that these signings aren't coming from the manager. Yeah. They're probably from the club, yeah? It's an awful coincidence if they're not coming from the manager and they're coming from the club when every single player that's being brought in is someone he's worked with, someone who's worked in the leagues that he's played, that he's managed in before. So he's got to take
well, that's a great point you make, and that's why he does need to take responsibility. Because Anthony was his, Martinez is his, Onana's his. He's played with him. You know, and also obviously we don't know for sure, but the agents are getting heavily involved. There's been some rumours about that.
Yeah,
but just to touch on the agent stuff, that happens everywhere.
Yeah, I've not got a problem with that, but what I'm saying is it shows what he's saying, which is that a lot of these players are Ten Hag's contribute. Yeah. I think he is involved in choosing the players.
And that is why there's pressure on him now, because everyone says, wait until I've got my team. These are his signings. So that's why we're seeing the pressure on him. I know Flex saying, I don't want to see pressure, I don't want to see this, I don't want to see that. It's a natural thing to happen now because the players that he's bringing in are his. You know, and that's why people were putting pressure on Ten Hag, and rightly so. I think, and the dealings with Jadon, I think, have been terrible. How it's been done publicly, I think it's terrible. The way he's speaking, do it in-house.
He might have tried that though, mightn't he? I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't like it being.
But what I will say, and listen, everyone who watches the Take On knows how much I love Jayden and want him to do well because he's from the same area as me. But Jayden, you got to help yourself, man. You have to help yourself.
Yeah, well said.
You can't put out a statement and then day later, 2 days later, or even a week later, you're in New York in a party. I just think it's something you just can't do.
No.
It takes away everything you've said in your statement. You know, and I think if you are going to do that, the next thing if you are going to make a statement, the next thing you do is you don't need to show people you're working hard. Just make sure you're doing it.
Yeah.
I know everything's a social media world now. And
no, but you're right.
And things get put out. Just do the hard work.
What a talent as well.
He's an unbelievable talent, but just so, not just for yourself, but your peers, your players you're playing with go, flip it, he's working hard, he is. We actually need him. You know what it's like as a player, Merv. There's no better feeling than your teammates going, we need him in our team. Yeah. There's no better feeling.
No. Do you know what? I feel sad about the situation because somebody I always enjoyed watching play is not being able to play because of stupidity and just some bad guidance. Because I think Man United, especially with the Anthony situation, would need him moving forward. Just in terms of United moving forward, I don't know what you think, Joey, about what he's actually trying to do in terms of how are they going to play and are they going to be a more possession-based, Ajax-looking, free-flowing side? Because I'm not seeing it yet.
I do think that there is sort of indication that things can come good with them. I like the new boy they've brought in, Højlund. He looks like he's strong. He looks like he's up for it. His stats before coming into Man United were underwhelming. He was like outscored by his strike partner at Atlanta last season. But I think that things are starting to come good for him. But the one problem that I would have if I was a United fan, and even from the outside looking in, is there's only so many times similar situations can sort of arise before you go, hold on, what's the common denominator here? Because Ten Hag keeps having fall-ins out of players. Remember last season when everything was going really well, we was bantering the fact that Ten Hag had an interview at Spurs. Do you remember? He had an interview at Spurs and they turned him down for the manager's role and they said, something along the lines of he showed a lack of character. And then Spurs are doing rubbish that season. Man United are flying and we're looking at that thinking, oh my God, what a bad decision there. Actually now, as time goes on, situations change and you start to look at things different. And is there potential there that maybe they could see that sort of confrontational element to his personality that they thought, you know what, you're not gonna be able to deal with some of the characters we've got in the dressing room here and things like that. So I do think that it will get better. How better it gets, I don't know, because when you look at them against Brighton, and let's be honest, no one was shocked, were they? No one was shocked to see Brighton. When you look at the stature of the club, you might go, God, how about Brighton meeting Man United? But
they made 6 changes, Brighton.
Yeah, Lamptey played out of position. Yeah, Brighton looked good, but do you know what? There is no shame losing to Brighton. I know.
The way you lose,
fan. They done a double over us last season.
The way you lose could have been 4 or 5 in the end.
And then one more thing about sort of like individual personalities, and this sounds like I'm digging out a young player, and I'm actually not. Look, I'd have no idea what it's like to score a goal at any ground, let alone Old Trafford when you come through the academy. But like when that Hannibal scored the goal at the end, do you see how he was celebrating? And I'm sort of watching that and I'm thinking, mate, if I'm a Man U fan, I don't want to see that. I get it's your first goal. I get you've come through the academy. We're 3-0 down.
Well, they'll forgive him, but I agree. I wouldn't do it.
I don't think I'm doing it, but when you score your first goal, like it's a different.
It is a mad one.
You've got to read the room a little bit, though, surely.
I scored my first goal for West Ham against Watford. And I sprinted the whole length of the pitch just to celebrate with the fans.
Was you losing at the time?
No, we was 0-0. We went 1-0 up.
Yeah.
Just a quick
one. We were losing 1-0 and I equalised.
Okay, yeah.
And then we went on to win.
It's different when it's,
I couldn't help it. I just couldn't help it.
No, I get that.
That's the biggest thing for me. Sorry, Matt. That's the biggest thing for me in terms of a Man United team, of what we know. We weren't surprised that he lost to Brighton, but like you said, and rightly so, it's the way it happened. You know, and the biggest thing for me is there's no fear. No teams have any fear at Old Trafford anymore.
Well, you know what? Last season they were really good at home. To be fair to United, it was away from home they really struggled, and so I think they got a bit of that back. But the reality is that they haven't yet been able to play that out. They had first half at Tottenham. They actually did all right. They played quite well, and the keeper was calm, and they were getting possession. I think the midfield is the biggest problem at the minute, but also just quickly because you're back. We haven't really talked about it, but he got a lot of plaudits last year, Martinez, and he's really struggling. He's out of position so often. I don't know if you saw the game. Flying out, maybe too keen to try and do well. And I always think at United, anytime I see United play well and defend well, Varane always is playing. People talk about the partnership and Martinez having this impact last season. I think Varane is the key for United when he's missing. But on Martinez, going back to the point I wanted to ask you, how can you go from looking as good as he did? I know he had the odd bad game. United got hammered away from home last season, but generally he was lauded as a great signing. To go where he's at now, because he's diving in. He's been brought off twice at half time.
I think second season's always harder.
Yeah,
he played the season last year. People don't know him. People are questioning his height, and he's shown glimpses last year of how tenacious he is. Now we're seeing someone who's overly trying to prove a point because they're not playing well.
Taking it on himself.
Exactly. When you're not playing well, and you're not playing well, and you've been dragged off at half time, you've got a point to prove. So it's almost like he's overexerting himself rather than staying calm because he's got this nickname of the Butcher, and he is a rash and he is wants to be in contact with people all the time. Smart defenders who can mix it in both, and the defenders that get spoken about as the top level, they know when to and when not to. They know when to go and when not to. When strikers and attacking players ask questions, they answer the question the right way. Okay, you're going into a position where I don't really want to go, and I'm not going to go there, even though I really want to get tight to you, because that's how I play.
Yeah,
and I think when you ain't playing well,
don't try too hard.
Don't try too hard. You have to stay relaxed, and you have to.
Because he's flying out. A couple of examples that he's flying into midfield after forwards, and against a good side. Because what they did, he went pop, pop, bomb.
And when you've got midfielders with no legs playing against midfielders who have legs. When you come out of position, you vacate your position as centre-back. Where do midfielders want to run into?
Space.
Into that space.
Yeah.
So one of the midfielders say to him, listen, stay there.
Yeah.
Stop coming out. Yeah. Let him turn and let me try and get back. But stay in your position. And I think that's what's happening. But I will say, second season is always hard.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a good point.
Like everyone talking about Saliba last year, how good he was. He was fantastic. You judge someone on their second season, not on their first season, in my opinion, because I know firsthand how hard it is playing in the second season when people actually start to
know a bit
go,
about it.
they know about you and they respect you and go, right, he's actually
it's
very
a good shout.
And I think that's what we're seeing this year with Martinez.
It's a good shout.
Another thing where he's only just came in as well is and this is definitely going to probably be a little bit of the feeling amongst Man United fans. There's not a United fan on this earth that wants the Glazers at the club, right?
That's true.
And the vibe around the club is that they're running it badly and it's almost like the rot is setting in, yeah? So you see these players like Casemiro come in, obviously Martinez come in when he first came. Even Anthony didn't start off badly, They come in and they've probably come from clubs where the standards are sort of elevated a lot compared to Man United. And after a bit of time, and this is hypothetical, I don't know this, but after a bit of time, potentially, the rot starts to set in a little bit. They see what's going on off the pitch, which we don't see, standards around Carrington and things like that. And it just, not saying they're down tools, but it starts to be hard to perform to that sort of intensity when you're not surrounded by it.
Seeing as you've just said that, I think it's the perfect time to go on to Chelsea.
Yeah,
it's the perfect time to go on to Chelsea. Because everything that you've just said there about Man United potentially could happen with Chelsea, based on the fact that there's players on 8-year deals.
Yeah.
And I think, could you have a problem at Chelsea in a couple of years' time if you don't make Europe this year and you don't make Europe the year after? Financial fair play starts to come in. How are your club going to deal with these players that are on 8-year contracts that all of a sudden go, I'm not leaving?
Well, unfortunately, the way that, the smart money would say we'd deal with it is by continuing to do what we've already done over this summer and sell off academy sort of prospects. You know what I mean? We sold off Lewis Hall, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I get
you're running out of them.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's been rumours about Reece James to Real Madrid and things like that. And that's obviously 100% profit. And it's saying that every single Chelsea fan would be outraged by it, you know what I mean? A lot of these players going, we don't want to see these players go. Even a player like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, a lot of people I gauge from things that I've done will have sort of not negative, but won't be, in awe of Ruben Loftus-Cheek. They won't think he's a great player. But I tell you what, Ruben Loftus-Cheek could do a job for us right now in terms of having someone who's been at the club, understands it a little bit more experience, a little bit more leadership. So to answer your question, realistically, it's not looking good. If we don't get Champions League football this season, next season, then, again, we're going to be in sort of dire straits when it comes to financial fair play and things like this. I think what we would bank on, and this isn't a good thing, but this is the situation we're in, is a bit of luck, really. Because say, for example, like the clear out we did this summer, whether you rate our incomings, no one can say that we didn't do well in terms of getting players out and getting fees for those players as well. We got some good fees for players. We got sell-on clauses as well. So from the business side of things, it hasn't been all bad from Todd Boehly's ownership, but some of the stories you hear aren't great. And obviously, the way that things are going on the pitch at the minute, I really thought after pre-season, people can say that pre-season doesn't mean anything, I get it, but I thought after pre-season, we see Pochettino come in, we see the side start to score goals in pre-season, start to play with more intensity, look like more of a team, and then straight away this season started and it isn't looking good at all.
I think though, you know what, I like Poch, so maybe it shrouds my judgment a little bit, and I think he's really dedicated to the job. He loves football and he loves coaching players. He's a proper hands-on coach who's working with these young, talented lads. I expect Chelsea to improve. I don't think they'll be challenging for the title. They might challenge top four. They'll have to go on a good run, of course. But I look at the injuries they got, which is a concern. Why so many injuries for so many young players? That is a concern. But when you start bringing those players back in with the energy and the pace and the dynamism that a lot of those players have got, and I did see some of the games pre-season, it did look dynamic, it did look good to watch. I don't think it's going to carry on the way it is. Now, you should beat Forest at home even with the players you got fit. Fair enough. I take that from Chelsea fans who are fuming at that. But when I look at what's coming into the side, when I look at who's going to come back, and you could tweak your best 11, we might have different opinions on that. I do envisage in the forthcoming months Chelsea being really good to watch and being dynamic.
I do think we will be, and obviously I could literally name you a starting 11 off the top of my head, injured or unavailable for that last match.
But then you sound like Flex whinging all the time.
Yeah, no, I know that's it. And no one's ever when you spent £1 billion, no one's ever going to have any sympathy for you. But it's relevant. You know what I mean? You take away, if we're going on about what's happening on the pitch, regardless of price tags, regardless of money we've spent, if you ask anyone, you've got 11 players who could potentially 10. I'll take away the goalkeeper that was injured, but 10 players that could potentially be in a starting 11 that are all injured. Anyone's going to suffer. It's going to hamper anyone. The thing that sort of disregards that a little bit is if you look at the 11 we fielded, it's a good 11. It's a good 11. It's an 11 that should be beating Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth are decent. Bournemouth aren't bad at all. But Spurs beat them, Liverpool beat them. And if you want to put yourself in that company, you've got to be going and beating a Bournemouth. You've got to be beating Nottingham Forest at home, because the run of fixtures we're about to go on here, really, really tricky. We got two games in there we could win, Aston Villa and Fulham, and they're not easy games.
But aren't we being guilty? Are we? I know we all want success. I know they've spent a load of money, but forget that. Yeah. Every club. You've been at clubs, I've been at clubs. A manager comes in and he's trying to get you to play a certain way, and then a few of them get injured and you're waiting for them to come back. I remember when Dembele came in at Fulham, he started on fine and he got injured for 7 weeks. Like, so we had to wait for him to come back and get him in the team and then adapt again. And that's just one example. He's been in the door 5 minutes. Yeah. And he was taking on a team, and I know they've changed a lot of the players, but so low on confidence. Fans so low on expectancy, disgruntled. For Chelsea, it's a bit different than Man U.
Yeah.
I think Man U, like, they finished top 4 last year. They won a trophy. People are going, we can win the title with these signings. Chelsea aren't there. Chelsea's a different...
People would be annoyed by this take, yeah. Chelsea are in a better position than Man United. Chelsea are, because if you look at say for example in that Man United team, 5 years time on from now, who is still playing for Man United that's in that team? You can maybe name two. 5 years time from now for Chelsea, the only one you're going to take out of that team is Thiago Silva, possibly Raheem Sterling, and in their place you've got a lot of young prospects coming through.
Do you know what? I think it's a good point.
Pochettino, yeah, he's the man for the job. I think there's tactical things he could have done a little bit better. I'd like to see Levi Colwill in a centre-back position rather than outside. I'd like to see a few little tweaks here and there, but what do I know in comparison to Mauricio Pochettino? He's got the backing of the Chelsea fans. For an ex-Spurs manager to come in and be taken as well as he has, it really does say something how much charisma, almost charm Pochettino's got. And I do think he'll get it right, but I can't sit here. I'll get hounded either way. You know what I mean? I can't sit here in denial and go, the underlying numbers are really good. We're not winning. We need to start winning. Do I think it will come? Yeah, I do.
I think that's what the problem's going to be. I think the problem's going to be, is he going to get the time? If, say, for instance, you continue not to win most games, I think he's the correct man for the job in terms of the young players that you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
And what the future looks like, what the future holds for Chelsea. He's the right man because he's proven of what he's done with young players. Yeah, will he get the time from the fans? Forget the club. Forget the club in terms of the hierarchy in the club. I'm talking the fans because, as we know, the Chelsea fans are very vocal on their managers, their players, and how they play, and they have a big influence on whether a manager stays or goes. Will he get the time?
I think so, because if you show me now a Chelsea fan who's under the, who has the opinion that Pochettino shouldn't be in the job, it's very simple. You sit him down, you say, okay, we get Pochettino out, who do you want in? Nagelsmann. You don't even know anything about Nagelsmann. You don't even watch any German football.
Well, then he's just saying the German job.
These people that say they don't want Pochettino, what's the alternative? Would you think we're going to be able to get a Pep Guardiola from Man City? We ain't got anyone available that's going to do a better job. And the other thing as well is if you look at the players, everyone's speaking well of Pochettino. And I tell you what, in a squad where say you're on the training field, they're doing an 11 versus 11, there's going to be loads of players that aren't making even a match on the training pitch, going to be sitting there, they're going to be annoyed. And to be able to keep harmony, like by all purposes, it sort of seems that he is at the minute, it does speak volumes of the job that Pochettino's doing with the players. So I think he will get time. I think if we finish 10th, 12th, whatever... But I think we'll get Europa League still, and I think you'll
do better than you think. I think you'll still be.
I think you do.
You'll have a good spell. I think there's enough flair and dynamism in the squad. I don't see the worry. I don't see the big concern coming from Chelsea.
Well, that's cheered me up anyway.
Is there a concern with Liverpool, Murph?
No, because started really well without playing that well. Keep coming from behind, giving themselves little mountains to climb. I was a bit surprised when I saw the team at Wolves because without Canate, without Van Dijk, I thought he'd put one of the holding players in that he's bought. And he didn't. He went with McAllister in there, who's travelled all over and obviously struggled first half, as we saw. But Klopp being Klopp, changed it, tweaked the system. He went 2 up top. Thought the subs Diaz made a real difference. I think Liverpool's best team has Diaz and Núñez in the starting 11 personally. But that's a different debate. But I like the fact that Liverpool are back to where they were 2 seasons ago, where sometimes they don't play so well in a game and still get the job done.
That's the sign of a good team.
Yeah, it is. And what did you think of the young lad, by the way? Did you see the game?
No, I didn't see.
Well, Quansah, he came. He's a lad. He's been at Liverpool since he's a kid. Young lad, tall. He's graceful.
I've heard people speak about him.
Did really well. I thought he did well, and I think that's the only area of concern for Liverpool's been at the back because a lot of people are saying without Canate, who's going to cover Trent when he goes missing, and Matip, although he's been great, maybe he's lost his legs, and this young lad's emergence seems to be answering a few of those questions. But yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think that Liverpool, there's more to come.
I don't see Liverpool dropping off. I think that Liverpool will be right up there, thereabouts. I think, do you know what, it's weird because you could say that winning is the best way to carry on winning, but if Liverpool did start the kids in the Europa and they were to go out early and then were to have a less congested fixture schedule, I think that would benefit them as well. We know City are there, but out of them and Liverpool probably go on and win that Europa League.
Well, they're favourites. They're favourites.
But do you know
guess
what
who are second favourites?
West Ham.
Brighton.
Yeah.
That's a good take.
Yeah. Good tournament.
Yeah, but then do you know what? That's at the minute because we've got to remember is teams filter out of the Champions League in there. So if someone, say for example, group of death or saying Newcastle go in there, I'm not saying I'll put them ahead of Brighton, but someone out of that group.
Arsenal will be one of them.
Yeah, what, to go out in the groups?
Arsenal will be in the Europa League come the knockout stage.
What did you make of Arsenal, going on to Arsenal?
I think I've liked what I've seen from them. I think it's going to be another hard season. Anyone to beat and pip Man City to the title this year, like most years, is going to be hard for them. The signings have been really good. Rice has come in and done what he's supposed to do.
Joke.
And he's shown.
It's a joke.
Joe's behind the camera, giving me a smile.
So good. He's so good.
I said it. Arsenal fans don't know what they're getting. They didn't know what they were getting. I've said it so many times to Joe. He didn't know what he was getting. Now he's starting to see it, you know. But for me personally, as a West Ham fan, for him to have gone and us start the season the way that we've started,
it's a win-win,
it's
you
been
know. With the
fantastic.
money they've had, the signings, West Ham have
100%.
started brilliantly.
100%.
I think it's a win-win, and Rice is kicking on like you expect him to around good
And,
players.
and I'm buzzing for him because, listen, forget that he played for the club that I support. I love him as a person, as a player, and I want him to do well, you know, and just based on the fact that he's a product of the famous academy that I came from.
What
So-
do you make of the goalkeeper situation then? Because there's been a lot of talk about it. And do you know what? I'll give you my take on it quickly. I've actually changed tact on this. You know, like I'm a bit of a dinosaur, a bit of an old school. And when I heard Arteta at first, I was saying, what are you going on about? You need a number one who's confident and about. And actually, when I saw his performance against Everton, Sanchez, this is Raya. So I'm thinking of Chelsea. Raya. I thought, whoa, how confident does he look and how good with his feet? The crosses, the presence. It was like, right, okay, see now why they want him. And if you've got this idea of mixing them up and being competitive with each other, which hasn't really been done properly before, it might just work.
Can I tell you what can't work, surely, though?
Go on.
Did you hear the comments he made in the interview where he said last season there was a couple of times during games, it got to the hour mark, 70 minutes, and I really wanted to make a sub to change the goalkeeper mid-match. He said I didn't have the confidence to
Why
do
not,
it,
though?
and I'm annoyed at myself. You can't be doing it.
What if he's having one? What if he's dropped a few?
Yeah, but you know what as well? When he was sort of insinuating that Ramsdale had dropped some points, I can think of way more points that Ramsdale saved Arsenal. That 2-2 draw against Liverpool, they would have lost that match, wouldn't even got a point there. In the end, it didn't go on to mean anything because they didn't go on and win the league. But they don't know that at the time. Ramsdale kept him in that match. Ramsdale was very, very good. If you're going on about what you prefer out of your two goalkeepers, it's not as simple as the sort of analogy we'd use with Man United when they had De Gea, a good shot stopper, albeit have made a few howlers, or they got Onana who's really, really good with his feet. But obviously, again, you know, see him in pre-season get chipped from the halfway line, he can make a howler. It's not as simple as that because they're both really good with their feet. Ramsdale and Raya are both good with their feet, but obviously Raya excels there. And it sort of looks like the writing's on the wall. I know they say about rotating. I think he might be softening the blow there. I think there might be less rotation than we think.
By the way, I love Ramsdale. He's brilliant.
Yeah. What we are going to see now is what his man management skills are like.
Yeah.
That's one thing we're going to see now is what that's like.
Great point.
And if it is as what people say it is, and it's meant to be very, very good, he'll have two goalkeepers at the top of their game fighting for that number one spot, but also wishing the other one well, which is unheard of. In our day, that's unheard of.
It is.
Unheard of. However, if he does do that and he gets it to that point, he's created something new within football.
Do you think there's a difference, isn't there, between putting you in Champions League and then so you're playing against PSV tonight, you're playing at Everton at the weekend, whatever. There's a difference with that than actually going 60 minutes in. Ramsdale, come off. And then, because I don't care, even though whatever the manager said to you, when you get subbed in a game, even though he might say to you, well done, or it's tactical, psychologically, you're on the bench thinking, what have I done wrong?
And the other
Unless
thing,
you've scored.
The other thing with that is as well, you see when we've envisioned this in our mind, it's Ramsdale being brought off and Raya being put on, isn't it?
That could be the other way.
Yeah, but I don't think it
You
is.
don't see
see Raya being on at 60 minutes and him subbing Raya off and bringing Ramsdale on.
Joe, I didn't realise as well with Raya until I really looked at him more at the weekend, and I did see lots of Brentford games, but they don't particularly play out. No. How good he is.
Really good.
He's a joke. He's like.
And what about the one he came for near the end when Everton had all the big ones up and he just come flying out to get it? And I was like, whoa.
I didn't know he had that. That bit I didn't know he had.
Maybe Arteta knows more than us. Maybe we're going to see him.
I think you got to remember the goalkeeper coach.
Yeah, he trained with him.
He
had him at Brentford.
The other thing as well, the only thing where, look, no player ever doesn't want to be playing, but this is the worst time possible for Ramsdale to be dropped. We've got the Euros coming up. He knows that he's starting to get a look in that England team, although we'd still assume that Pickford's very much Southgate's number one.
Yes.
Even if Ramsdale completely outperforms Pickford all season, we know what Southgate's like. Pickford's going to be the number one. But for Ramsdale, it's an awful time to potentially lose your place. And we could, but if he doesn't, we could get to January and he could go out on loan or something. He could go somewhere.
Well, would you have him at Chelsea?
Of course I would. Yeah, with Chelsea, I'd have everyone. Of course I'd have him. Yeah. Listen, Sanchez had a good game the other day.
He did.
But I really, really rate Ramsdale. I think he's a brilliant
Sanchez
keeper. Good age as well. Still probably 4 or 5 years off his prime. So yeah.
I think Raya's number one. I think there's no getting.
You think that already?
I think Raya's number
really?
one. I think Arteta was waiting for that one moment to stick him in, and that's his number one.
But he didn't do anything wrong, Ramsdale.
I know, but he has a preference for some reason, and he ain't come out and said what that reason is. But I'm sure it's been discussed in-house.
He's a bigger presence, isn't he?
And he's had a good match when he has been stuck in. It's not like he's been stuck in and had a bit of a wobbler. Like he's gone in and had a really good match.
He looks a big presence.
Yeah,
he looks a calming influence. I'm telling you now, as a defender, there's no better feeling than having someone behind you who's a calming influence. It calms you down, it settles you down, and it makes you concentrate on your game. You know. But then on the other hand, Ramsdale many times last year,
brilliant.
One of the centre backs or one of the defenders makes a mistake, he digs them out of a hole with a great save.
Yeah.
You know, so it swings and roundabouts. But this lays with Arteta. We're either going to see his man management come to the fore, or it's going to massively backfire.
Could do. Yeah, let us know your takes. Just on West Ham, quick, decent performance, I thought. I thought he played well for periods. I know me and Man City open everyone up.
Of course.
But I actually thought even at 1-1 when they had their 2 good saves on it from Edison. Pleased with West Ham. I know they lost the game, but it's City, isn't it?
I'm pleased. I sit as a West Ham fan. I'm pleased.
Great start to the season.
It's a great start to the season. The signings that have come in have been fantastic. Alvarez looks a joke.
Yeah,
he looks humble. The way he gets around the pitch.
I think he hurt himself late on. Is he all right? Do we know? Or?
I think he's okay. But seeing the fact that we got rid of Declan to Arsenal, which is a massive, massive hole in our starting 11, to now bring him in, who gets around the park very, very well, does all the dirty stuff with a smile on his face, and he can play.
And add Ward-Prowse.
And then you add Ward-Prowse.
How good's he been, by the way?
Unbelievable.
Whoa.
My fantasy team's doing well with him.
We said it on here, though. I said it on here. It's pay the extra whatever it was, 5 million we were now about, for God's sake, because he's brilliant on set plays, he's reliable with his defending, he's good with the ball, and he'll nick you a goal.
And talking of goalkeepers, Areola. Yeah. For the last 2 years, he's been our European goalkeeper, and Fabianski's been number one. He done that well last year in the Europa Conference League, that David Moyes thought, I'm going to give him a chance. And in the start of the season, he's paid him back already with the penalty save against Chelsea.
Yeah, it's been very good.
And the saves that he's been making in the Brighton game, in the Man City game, he's paid his dues. And I think, Fabianski ain't happy, but we've got a goalkeeper in Areola who's been absolutely fantastic.
Be a good test for them at Liverpool weekend.
It will be.
Because good test for both. Because Moyes will set them up properly.
Well, that's quite key there, the way you say about setting them up. The one thing we were saying about Man United, and we would also say it to an extent about Chelsea, is we don't really know what they do at times. Whereas West Ham, it's like everyone knows their job. You know what you're doing. We know what we're going to get from certain players. You know that the consistency in terms of the levels of performance is always pretty much going to be there for West Ham. And we often put sort of like a negative cloud over the teams that are playing in Europe, those sort of Thursday, Sunday and stuff like that. But actually, if you take that out of it, we say it about Brighton, we're saying it about West Ham at the minute. If you take that out of it, they're just as well positioned at the minute to have a really, really good season and push again for European football. So I think come the end of this season, it wouldn't shock me at all if they got European football, whether it was Europa, Conference League. I think top 4 would be a push, if I'm being honest. But if they were to get that again, for the West Ham fans, what's that, 3 seasons in a row? They'd be playing in Europe. It's unreal.
I tell you, I hope that happens. I really do. But I tell you, the dark horses are for me, and they're going about their business quietly, is Aston Villa.
You say that.
They're going about their business quiet. I think. Something's cooking up over there.
I hope not. We got them next.
Newcastle and Liverpool dismantled them.
Yeah.
Liverpool without getting into fourth gear, really.
The Liverpool one was worse. The Newcastle one, you'd raise an eyebrow when I say that and think, hold on, they got beat 5-1 by Newcastle. I watched that game. Villa looked decent. They just crumbled when they shipped. The Liverpool game, they didn't do anything.
I'm not saying they don't look better. They've got great firepower, better than they've had before. They look like at home they can turn anyone over. But against the bigger teams, just to push on at the minute, they're still not quite there. But I love watching them play. And he's done an amazing job. So let me get that right. But in terms of dark horses for top 4 now.
They're another one that in the transfer market.
I'm sorry. I'm saying in terms of European football.
Okay, yeah. No, that's fair.
That's fair. Horses, I think.
I think that's fair. Sorry, I misinterpreted what you meant. I think that absolutely. Because they've got strength and depth now.
Yeah, they got as good a chance as any in that Conference League as well.
Just on Europe, we've seen Newcastle get a scrappy point, but well earned. Put their bodies on. I didn't play that well.
That'll give them confidence.
Absolutely for the next few. But we've got. What do you think tonight? We've got United at Munich and Arsenal, of course. Arsenal you'd expect, but no hope for United.
I think United get spanked. I do.
Do you know what I think they might? I think they might. I don't think they'll win, and I think they'll probably lose. But I think they'll see a reaction from United. I think he'll go defensive.
I would imagine they'd lose.
I'm not sure. I think that's what we was talking about earlier on Man United. I don't see character.
No, that's true.
I don't see character. Like you said earlier, Murph. It's not that you lost; it's the way you lose. Like it's character. Does it hurt that they get beat? I'm not quite sure. That's why I don't see them doing anything tonight. Well,
it's a hard game to do. I mean, I've when we played in Europa with Fulham, we went on that amazing run. Nearly every team we played. So I'm comparing Fulham to United in a weird way. No one's giving.
Wait, hold on a minute. What's your take on that? He's comparing Man United.
I'm pretty sure you beat United that season. Let
me explain. United going to Munich tonight, most people, because of the injuries now they're playing, don't give you a chance. And we went to most of the games away from home, Juve, Wolfsburg, who were German champions, Shakhtar, Donbass Arena, all those games, no one giving us a chance.
Yeah.
And we just showed some spirit and resilience, stayed in the game at times, and then grew into the game. So sometimes when you're an underdog in Europe, actually, you've just got to show what you're saying. It'd be interesting to see the character tonight.
But that's the one thing that I don't see them characteristics in that Man United.
But can they pick a team with players who, because I don't know about you, but I'm sticking McTominay next to Casemiro tonight and asking them both not to move.
Last season as well, obviously once they'd had a bad start, they were going into the match, albeit at Old Trafford, but they were going into that match against Liverpool, who had started all right, and you were thinking, God, this could be 3 or 4. They ended up beating Liverpool, and that's what sort of kick-started their run. So it could be a similar situation, but if I'm a betting man, I'd obviously go for Bayern Munich. On Bayern Munich, ever so slightly though, I'd like to see in this Champions League so far, because we know he'll do it in the Bundesliga, but I'd like to see in the Champions League if Kane actually does turn up and deliver for Bayern Munich, because although he's always done it for Tottenham, he did sometimes go missing in the bigger matches.
Point,
so I'd like to see if he goes to Old Trafford tonight and gets himself on the score sheet. That'd be interesting.
I think he does.
It's in Munich, so.
Munich.
Sorry, yeah.
It's at Munich.
Be easier for him.
Yeah.
Bad take.
Yeah.
That's all right. I called Raya Sanchez, didn't I? So.
But I think Kane delivers, because this Bayern team play for him. He's taken the shoes of Lewandowski, and they played for him. And I think it's just food and drink for him now, and he's just going to put the ball in the back of the net for fun. I think Champions League, I think he'll do well for Bayern Munich this year.
Hope so.
I really do. But listen, guys, that's our take on the Take On show. Make sure you're in the comments. Make sure you...
Especially about Man U.
Make sure you tell us what you think and give us your take. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Peace.